July 2nd, 1947. A massive thunderstorm is just absolutely hammering the desert northwest of Roswell, New Mexico. The very next morning, local rancher Mac Brazel heads out to check on his sheep, and he trips over something wild. His pasture is just covered in this bizarre debris. We're talking weird metallic fragments, odd little sticks, and this super unusual, extremely thin foil-like material. The crazy part? If you crumpled this foil up in your hand, it would immediately unfold itself completely flat again. Brazel had literally never seen anything like it.
So he gathers up some of the pieces, shows a couple of neighbors, and then drives into town to report it to the local sheriff. Well, the sheriff takes one look and immediately hits the phones. He calls the Roswell Army Airfield. And here is why that specific detail is absolutely critical. In 1947, Roswell Army Airfield wasn't just some random run-of-the-mill military base. It was the only military installation in the entire world equipped with nuclear-armed bombers. Whatever crashed out there in the desert had basically landed in the backyard of the most heavily guarded, sensitive military asset on the planet.
Okay, let's dive into this, because what happened next created a cultural mystery that just won't quit. On July 8th, the public information officer at that base put out a press release that sent absolute shockwaves across the globe. He officially stated that the intelligence officer was, quote, fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc. Yeah, you heard that right. The United States Army Air Forces actually went on the record and told the world they had captured a flying saucer. As you can imagine, the headlines exploded nationwide. But here's the catch. For exactly one day, the flying saucer story was the official truth. Then, in less than 24 hours, the narrative violently snaps back. General Roger Ramey out in Fort Worth calls this super hasty press conference, literally throws some of the debris on his office floor, and declares it was all just a huge misunderstanding. The official story completely flips. Now, it was merely a weather balloon. Case closed. And the craziest part is, the newspapers bought it, the public moved on, and just like that, the story abruptly died. For 30 full years, Roswell was just this forgotten little footnote. Crickets. But 1978 changed everything. A researcher named Stanton Friedman managed to track down and interview a guy named Jesse Marcel. Now, Marcel wasn't just anybody. He was the specific military intelligence officer who originally collected that debris from Brazel's ranch. And Marcel dropped an absolute bombshell. He went on the record stating that the weather balloon explanation was a total cover story. He claimed the material he recovered was impossibly light, impossibly strong, and fundamentally unlike any of the standard weather balloons he had handled hundreds of times before. That single interview? It was like dropping a match in dry brush. Throughout the 80s and 90s, the story just exploded in scale. Researchers started tracking down hundreds of witnesses, and the claims got way wilder, and honestly, a lot darker. Suddenly, people are reporting a highly classified second crash site. Local morticians are remembering frantic military requests for child-sized coffins. Former nurses are coming forward describing horrific, secret autopsies performed on non-human beings. Now, we have to remember, this testimony was incredibly fragmented, highly contradictory, and surfacing decades after the fact. But the sheer volume of these claims was just overwhelming. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the actual truth that finally dropped in 1994. The Air Force released this massive, newly declassified report stating what actually crashed in the desert. It was Project Mogul. This was a top-secret program using these elaborate high-altitude balloon trains to acoustically listen for Soviet nuclear tests. The whole reason for the 1947 cover-up? Project Mogul was highly classified. And as for all those alien autopsies and bodies, a follow-up report in '97 pinned that on conflated human memories. See, the military had been dropping crash test dummies from high-altitude balloons in the 1950s. Over the course of 30 years, local residents basically matched the 1947 debris crash and the 1950s dummy drops together in their heads. When you map the physical evidence directly against each other, it aligns perfectly. The strange foil Mac Brazel found, those were radar reflectors. The odd sticks, just balsa wood frames. The weird material holding it all together was actually specialized military tape. So yes, the government absolutely did lie to the public in 1947. They just weren't lying to hide extraterrestrials. They were lying to hide state-of-the-art Cold War surveillance tech. But you know what? By the time the truth actually came out, it didn't even matter. Believers found the Air Force reports completely unconvincing. Roswell had already set the modern cultural template, this idea that government secrecy automatically breeds conspiracy theories. That single confirmed lie back in 1947 created enough breathing room for 60 solid years of wild speculation. I mean, it transformed a sleepy New Mexico town into an entire economy built on extraterrestrial tourism. Alien-themed diners, UFO museums, the whole shebang. But digging a bit deeper, the endurance of this myth reveals something really profound about us. It highlights our intense distrust of official explanations, our deep hunger for mystery in a super scientific age, and honestly, our innate, powerful desire to believe that we just aren't alone out here. Roswell proved that when you leave a void of truth, human imagination will inevitably rush in to fill it. And sometimes, a single lie sparks a myth far more powerful than the truth could have ever been.